Hey guys, it's Mr. Mini Painter, and today I'm painting Nori, one of the dwarves of Thorin's Company, a series of movies I'm making, paint tutorials for you to follow. So this is one of many, and here you see how I painted him. So first I gave it a black primer, and I also added some modeling sand to the bottom, which I gave a base coat of dried bark. You can do it afterwards if you want, whatever you prefer. For the face, I'm using Bugman's Glow, as always, as a nice dark base tone. Its face, part of the hands. He's wearing kind of like gloves, which is showing his fingers. Make sure that your paint is nice and thin, because you do not want to lose any details in the face. Now the second layer is Cadian Flesh Tone, and for this I'm focusing on all the raised areas. So just leave those eye sockets nice and dark. The spaces between the fingers I'm leaving nice and dark. But more or less the rest I'm painting with this Cadian Flesh Tone. What you can do is block out the color with some lines and then washing the Cadian Flesh Tone over the rest. So it's a little bit brighter but blends the colors together very nice. Third stage is Kislev Flesh, and again, same pattern, focus on the raised areas, apply some tiny details. Keep your areas smaller, so just the cheekbones, tip of the nose, the eyebrows, etc. Then Palette Witch Flesh for the eyes. And for this you need a fine tipped brush and of course a very steady hand. This is also always the biggest worry of any miniature painter, because the eyes, they really define your model. I used Abaddon Black for the pupils. If you make any mistakes, just go over it with some Bugman's Glow or start all over again, but don't do it too many times because you lose a lot of details when repainting the same area. I gave the face a wash with Carabao Crimson, and I thinned it down quite a lot so that the reddish purplish tone is mainly fixed on the very edges of the face, so where it touches the hair, the beard, etc. Then Steel Legion Drab for the hair. I'm gonna try something with the hair I've never done before, so I really hope it works out, but I did not want to use the traditional Agrax Earth shade. Of course you can do if you want, but I wanted to give it a more of a red orangey look. And for that I applied some Guilliman Flesh, which is a Citadel contrast paint, and I applied it as a wash all over the model, but it makes it look a little bit more red. Then to highlight the hair, I'm mixing some Ushabti Bone in Steel Legion Drab to create my first highlight stage. Take your time, go around, leave some of those dark areas shining through, and focus on the top areas and some strains of hair here and there. And then some pure Ushabti Bone as a next highlight. Then we're going to continue on the clothing. The cloth will be painted with Skavenblight Dinge. It's quite a large area, and we're going to add some browns afterwards. Now to add some extra color, I'm adding some Gryph-Charger Grey contrast paint, which is a bit bluish, to the bottom part of his cloth and the part around his neck, which is like a shirt shining through. I wanted to give it a slightly different look while more or less belonging together. I'm then highlighting the shirt with some Dawnstone, focusing on the sleeves, because these are the most prominent parts that are showing. And as said before, some of this jacket is going to be brown. And now on to some rhinox hide as a brown tone for parts of the coat and also his wrist pieces. Take a look at the box art if you want, or at the end result to see which parts are going to be brown. Basically, more or less only his sleeves are going to be gray. And part of the collar. I'm now using Baneblade Brown to create some highlights on everything, all the brown parts. And for his wrists, I wanted to make them look a little bit more interesting, so I added a pattern to them by some diagonal lines. It's a tedious job, but it makes your model look so much more interesting. So if you're up for the task, please try. I did the same with the bottom part of his coat, added some diagonal lines here and there to create some sharpness, but also some detail. I did the same with the gray on his chest, so the collars of his coat, so to say. I added some lines as a highlight to the outside and tried to paint in a pattern by diagonal lines to get some extra detail in there. So make sure that your paint is wet enough and not too thin to create some nice details, some very consistent details. For this and for every paint job actually, I would recommend a wet palette, because it makes your work so much more easy. Now as you can see, it looks a lot more interesting than it did before, and the tiny details really spice up your model. Next, for the boots, Thondia Brown. When there are a lot of browns in your model like this one, it's nice to have some different kind of browns, otherwise it looks very tedious and monotone, and now you can add some extra details to it. I also painted the belt with Thondia Brown, and I painted the scabbards of the knives on his back with dried bark. Next is the metal parts, and for that I'm using lead belcher. There are some tiny details on the scabbards on his back, the tips of the blade, and also of course the weapon he's holding. Now once this is done, you'll give everything a wash with some thinned down Nuln oil. Next, I mixed Rhinox hide to Mournfang brown to paint the wood part of the weapon, again to create a different brown tone. I'm then highlighting it with pure Mournfang brown, which gives it a nice bright orangey look. Add some details here and there if you want, or just add some highlight lines. I then used some Corvus Black for the strap that is hanging over here. Corvus Black is like a gray black. I use it quite often. You don't want any pure black, and at least it's a matte color, which I like as well. You can highlight that if you want. For the weapon, I used some Baneblade Brown as a final extreme highlight. And I tried to add some wood grain to it. I used the same Baneblade Brown on the boots. Now for the strap, I highlight that with some Ashen Grey. You go all around it. And you add some extreme highlight with a Ministratum Grey to the very tips of the piece. And with some Mournfang Brown, I painted the straps holding the scabbards on his belt. Again, another nice brown tone to complete this model. And that's it for Nori. One of the dwarves of Thorin and Company. I'm doing all of the dwarves in these painting tutorials, so please check my channel if you are interested in more of them. I hope this was of any use to you, and if so, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And consider subscribing to the channel to keep posted for more of these videos, because I'm making them every week. Thank you so much for watching this video again, and I hope to see you in one of my next ones. Bye bye!